Is it a box van or is it a box truck? What do you call this thing? Why did I choose this over all the other choices of vehicle out there? Why didn't I get the bigger one? How did I buy it? How did I insure it? What am I gonna do when it breaks down? I'm gonna explain all of that in this video. So I'll start with an apology. This isn't the van build video you were expecting today. I've been sick, or at least under the weather, pretty much all week. For the past 4 days, I've gotten off work and just went straight to bed. I've been dizzy and nauseous. I think I have a sinus infection. And speaking of the weather, it's been frigid. Like the other morning, it was like -15 when I went to work. But there's a big warm up coming. Next week's looking good. It's going to be in the 40s, and I'm going to force myself to get back to work on the van. But I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, and I figured I might as well just upload it on Saturday. After all, it is van related. So recently some guy got super pissed at me in the comments for calling it a box van. He was like, "It's not a box van, it's a box truck. Quit saying that, get it right." At first I was like, what's your deal? You know, who cares? And then I thought, well, it's, you know, that might be a good topic of discussion for a video. So is it a box van or is it a box truck? Well, it's actually 5 things, and I'm going to explain them to you in descending order, starting with number 5. This is my home, or it will be when I'm done building it. It's also the snake pit, which is just, my friends have been calling it that, and the name kind of stuck. I wasn't even really going to name the van, but, you know, it is what it is. Back in August of 2022, I was horribly depressed, and I decided that I'm going to become a nomad. I'm going to move out of my apartment, get rid of all my stuff, and hit the road. And just by making that decision and making that the plan moving forward actually helped me quite a bit. Having that dream and knowing that that's what I was going to be working towards really turned things around for me. And at that time, I didn't really know what kind of vehicle I wanted to travel in. I had my Buick, and I started looking at teardrops because those are pretty cool. And they're small enough where you could actually pull them with a car. The problem with those, though, is it's basically a bed on wheels with a galley in the back, and you can't stand up in them. You can't really go to the bathroom inside. You have to do all of your cooking outside. Basically, if it's raining or windy, you're screwed. So I decided maybe I should get something that I could stand up in. And I thought about cargo trailers and travel trailers, and I started looking at trucks. I really like Chevys and Toyotas, and I just could not find anything that would have been reliable enough or low mileage or not rusted out for like less than 20 grand. And I really didn't want to just get into a ton of debt where I would just always have a payment, or, you know, basically I was going to quit my job too. So the plan, and what I did, is I moved out of my apartment, got rid of all my stuff, went to stay at my mom's, and I was going to save enough money to be able to live on the road for like a year without having to work. And then I could get a seasonal job or find something better. You know, at that point I would have basically achieved my goal of starting a whole new life and then go from there. And then, you know, things kind of, a series of unfortunate events occurred in my life in the coming months after I moved out of my apartment. And about a year later, I was just so desperate and miserable that I was ready to just hop in my Buick and go, you know. I was actually up in Canada visiting my brother. I had just quit my job and got sober. And when I got back, I was going to head to Arizona in the Buick and honestly never return. And I know that's called doing a geographical and, you take your problems with you, but I don't care. I was born to be a nomad, and van life is the answer for me. But the universe gave me a sign in the form of a job opportunity, and I decided to just delay my departure and build a rig that would be sustainable, more so than just living in my car, something that I could really comfortably live out of and bring my kitties along with me. And so I started shopping for vans. I decided I didn't want to tow anything. I didn't want a trailer. And I wanted a high top so I could stand up in it. So I was looking at like Transits and ProMasters and Sprinters, and I can't afford a Sprinter. Those things are like freaking 50 grand for the cheap one. It's ridiculous. And the Transits and the ProMasters, they were also pretty expensive, like 20,000 plus for a decent one. And they just had funky drivetrains, like motors and transmissions, that I just wasn't familiar with working on. I knew I needed a Chevy van, basically. And I was looking at some of the older like conversion vans from the 90s and stuff, which are really cool, and that's a good choice for anyone. But I just wasn't finding anything that either didn't have like well over 200,000 miles on it, or was like rusty and would have needed a bunch of mechanical work. And I actually got the idea to get a U-Haul from, I was on a road trip a few years ago, and I was up in, I was at Fort Randall Dam in South Dakota. It's on the Missouri River, kind of south of Chamberlain. And I was chilling at this campground next to the lake, and this guy pulled in a like a moving van. I think it was a Penske or something. It was the bigger one with the dualies and the thing over the cab. And he pulled up and he opened up his rear door, and I saw his cool build he had inside there, and I was like, whoa, that's a great idea, you know. And then he like pulled out this like open frame construction generator and fired it up and was powering his portable AC with it. And I ended up not spending the night there, actually. I was looking online, and I was just looking at like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and stuff, and you know, I found some stuff, and I didn't have a whole lot of money in the bank either, so I knew I had to get a loan on something. And I didn't know that U-Haul sold used vans until I watched a Bob Wells video, and he interviewed this guy who had the 14-footer, the bigger one, and he just casually mentioned in the interview that, yeah, U-Haul sells used equipment on their website. So I got online, and eureka, there was like just a whole selection of used vans for sale all over the country, and they were pretty decently priced compared to all the stuff that I had been looking at. And I looked at their website for a couple months, every day pretty much. There was nothing close to me. There was stuff down in KC, there was stuff out in Chicago and all over. Because they'll show you, you can search what you want, and then you can just find by location what's available. And they come in different like conditions, and they're priced accordingly. And I was about to rent a car and drive to Illinois and check out one for like $10,900 or something they wanted for it. And then like on New Year's Eve, I checked, and one was available near me, and it was in better condition than the one I was going to look at. They wanted like $12,650 for it. So I went and checked it out. I went down there. I told the guys, hey, I'm interested in looking at one of your used, you know, this one. And they were like, cool, here's the keys, you know, go check it out, drive it around. If you have any questions, let us know. Super laid back experience. And I inspected it. I test drove it. It looked perfectly good to me. The only thing mechanically wrong with this van when I bought it was it needs new tires, and one of the steering lines has a small leak. That is it. Like, the engine was super clean. Everything underneath looked great. It wasn't super beat up. There's like another comment that I get sometimes is U-Hauls are trashed. People beat the crap out of them. And, you know, if you go in expecting that, you know, you'd be pleasantly surprised when it's not that bad. And on this one, there's like one dent on the front bumper and the grill's cracked. That's like pretty much it. So I took a picture of the VIN number and I went to my bank and got a loan, and 2 days later I drove this thing home. So that brings us to number 4. It's a U-Haul. Obviously, duh. Why am I even mentioning this? Well, let's talk about it. So you go to U-Haul's website, you scroll down to the bottom, and in like the website directory, there's like used equipment sales or used truck sales. You click on that. There's 3 different U-Hauls. There's the 10-foot little one like this. There's the most common, like the 14-foot one with the dualies and the thing over the cab. And those are actually cheaper. And then there's the 26-foot super mover, the big, huge freaking thing. And I think the bigger ones are cheaper because they're harder to sell. I think basically the people that buy these things from U-Haul are like contractors looking for, you know, like Mario's Plumbing needs a work van for their business or something. So the smaller ones are probably a little easier to sell. The bigger ones, the 14-footers, also get like 8 to 9 miles per gallon. And these get 15, which has been confirmed, by the way. Somebody also commented that that was a pipe dream. But another thing about buying it from U-Haul is, you know, they're a company that you can trust to, like, what you see is what you get. They're not like trying to rip people off with this stuff. A lot of people say I paid way too much. And you know what, if I went down to like Deal and Dan's Autorama and bought the $3,500 box van that his mechanic Jerry with the drinking problem poured a bunch of snake oil in the crankcase to get it to quit smoking, you know, yeah, I would have spent less, but I would have been screwed basically. So I got a loan from my bank, and another reason U-Haul was a good choice for that is because I've gotten a loan from my bank for when I bought my truck several years ago, and I bought that from a private party, which is totally doable. But what I had to do is get the guy to like agree to give me the title for the truck signed, and then take that to my bank and give them that, and then they cut me the check to the guy. And it was just a kind of an awkward, uncomfortable experience for him, you know. The U-Haul employees aren't used car salesmen. They're not trying to hustle you and rope you in on a deal. They're just at work. And if a guy comes by and wants to buy a used van, then they do get commission for that. So it's like a pleasant little surprise for them, but they're not like on your ass about it, trying to hustle you anything. And you can actually negotiate with U-Haul. And they explained it to me. They're like, you can do a counter offer. The longer they're for sale, the more wiggle room you have. But this one's was only for sale for like 2 days before I came and looked at it. So I paid $12,500 for it. They wanted $12,650 or something, which, I mean, it's for what I got. It's a 2011 with I think it's got 124,000 on it. And it's mechanically sound. I mean, other than needing tires, it's legit. And I think that's a pretty damn good deal on today's prices for what I got. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion on that, but after shopping for months for a van, you know, that's the best I could do. So after I bought the van, because I got a loan on it from my bank, I had to get full coverage insurance on the van. And I figured out right away that's not very easy to do on these. You can't just get a regular auto policy on a box van because it's technically a commercial vehicle. You can get commercial insurance if you have an EIN or a business, which I do, but it's really expensive. Like, I don't know why, but I mean, we all know insurance is just a scam, but commercial insurance on one of these is freaking outrageous. And I was kind of sweating a little bit about it, so I'm like, crap, I just bought this thing. I can't take it back to U-Haul and tell them I want to, you know, give it back or something. I have to figure this out. I figured out that Progressive's RV policy, they actually have a policy for home-built camper vans. And you can specify that you live in it too. Like they do want like a address where the van's gonna be, but you can actually tell them that I live in this full time. And what you do is you set the value yourself. So like in my instance, I got a policy for $25,000, just like that's what it's worth. If I get totaled or whatever, that's what they'll pay out. And they also offer roadside assistance, and there's actually, you can do like breakdown allowance or something where, like, I think I did that for like $3,500. So if something happened, like the transmission goes out and I'm not in a place where I can fix it myself, which is always the plan. I'll try to do everything myself, but if I'm in a pinch, I could probably look into my RV policy with Progressive, and maybe they'll pay out some of that, cover some of the cost of getting my van fixed. What you do have to do is upload a bunch of pictures of several different components of the van. So like they wanted like 20 different pictures of stuff. Like they wanted this shot angle of the van, that angle, whatever passed through to the cab you got. They want to see what your like toilet looks like, what your waste water systems are, what your cooking system is, your heat, your AC, this and that. Like they pretty much wanted pictures of every like component of the van, you know, just so they know what they're insuring, I guess. If you ever had to file a claim, they could, yeah, okay, his van really was equipped with this or that. What I did, because I just bought the thing and it was just an empty shell and wasn't an RV yet, so I just took one picture and then I put a little caption in it, and that just said like, build is still in progress, I'll update pictures once complete. And I sent that same picture like 20 times to every category of what they wanted pictures of, and it worked. But I mean, I probably shouldn't have, but I ain't gonna argue with that. So if you do go buy one of these from U-Haul and you're going to build it into an RV, please just be discreet about it. You know, let's not ruin a good thing. There's always some kind of party pooper out there, like insurance people, or, you know, maybe some company guy at U-Haul or lawmakers somewhere would, you know, try to put an end to that, you know. So we've covered the fact that it's a U-Haul. So where do U-Hauls come from? Does U-Haul make these? No. They get them from a company called Morgan Truck Body in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. And that brings us to number 3. This is a Morgan Mini Mover. And it's the smallest offering on their website, and they actually advertise it as a parcel delivery vehicle. And they tout its nimbleness, like it can weave in and out of urban areas and residential streets and stuff. And they actually offer these with the side door right where I put mine, and a bulkhead like pass through to the cab too. And I got on their website and I downloaded the PDF of the Mini Mover just because it has some useful information, like what materials they used when they built the box and like the dimensions of stuff. And I think that's the company that makes all of the U-Hauls. So where does Morgan get the vehicle to turn into a U-Haul? Do they buy Chevy vans and then just hack the body off of them? No, they get what's called a cutaway chassis. And that brings us to number 2. This is a GMT 610. What is that? Well, it's a Chevy Express or GMC Savana, basically. Ever since 1967, or maybe even before that, I'm not sure, GM classified their full-size vans as the G series. And then their trucks were the C and the K series, C being rear-wheel drive and K being the 4x4s. And for the trucks, it was like that all the way up until 1988 when they redesigned them, and they were called the GMT 400. And that's the first trucks that they ever designed in a wind tunnel. Random fact there. But I had a 96, it was sweet. They're great trucks. GM redesigned their trucks again in 99, and they called them the GMT 800 and 900. The 900 is like the 3/4 and 1 tons, and the 800 is the half tons. In 1996, Chevy and GMC redesigned the vans, the full-size vans, and they became the GMT 600. And that's when the Chevy Express and the GMC Savana were born. Prior to that, it was called the GMC Vandura, and the Chevy van was literally just called the Chevy van. And the 99 to 06 Chevy trucks, in my opinion, and it's a popular opinion online too, is that they're like the best trucks ever made. They're super easy to work on, they're really reliable, parts are plentiful and cheap, and they will rust out long before they ever quit running. And those Chevy trucks from 99 and up, I'll say till present even, are the first to have the Gen 3 small blocks, which is commonly known as the LS, because they're based off of the LS engine that was first introduced in the C5 Corvette in 97. And in 2003, GM updated the vans, the GMT 600s, to feature all the good stuff that those trucks had, the Gen 3 small blocks, a redesigned frame and everything, and that became the GMT 610. And that's what they are to this day. The GMT 610 is the Chevy Express and the GMC Savana from 2003 through 2026. And they'll be discontinued after that. They're working on the GMT, I think 620 now, which is the new design. And they were going to be like EVs or hybrids, but they scrapped that idea. At least they declared that they're going to keep internal combustion engines for the new ones. And the GMT 610s are, in my opinion, and argue with me all you want on this, but they are the most dependable, most reliable vans ever built. So get them while you can, people. All right, so since 2003 to 2026, almost nothing at all has changed on these vans. The body panels and everything are exactly the same. All they've changed over the years. In 2008, they upgraded the steering wheel, seats, and gauge cluster. In 2011, they upgraded the dash. In 2015, they added a 120-volt outlet to the dash and a new radio. And in 2018, they upgraded from the sealed beam headlights to the composite ones. On the half tons, from 2003 to 2014, they offered an all-wheel drive option. And in 2022, they dropped the CD player. So that's like literally all that's changed over the years on these vans. So a 2003 Chevy Express fender will fit a 2025 Chevy Express. It's all the same stuff. One thing they did change in 2009 or 2010, I believe, is the transmission on the 3/4 and 1 tons. It was the 4L80E transmission up until then, and now it's the 6L90E, which is what mine has. 6 means 6 gears, L is linear arrangement, 90 is the torque rating, which isn't in foot-pounds, it's just a number that they give them, and then the E means electronically shifted or electronically controlled. If you have a front-wheel drive GM transmission, it would be like my Buick has a 4T for transverse 60E transmission. I think the 4L80E is actually a little more reliable than the 6L90E. That's just my opinion though, we'll see, time will tell. But the 6L90E having more gears, I think probably gets better gas mileage. Back to the Gen 3 small block, the LS as it is commonly known. So my van has the 4.8 and it's called the L20 specifically. And the magical thing about the 4.8 in the GMC and Chevy vans is they do not have active fuel management. They do have variable valve timing, but they don't have active fuel management, which is basically cylinder deactivation. And why that's a good thing is because the Silverados that had that are notorious for lifter failure. The engines, they'll run perfectly fine, but they'll start like ticking and knocking and stuff. And you have to pretty much pull the heads and replace the lifters on those, which is really not that big of a deal for like a mechanic, but it can be a pretty costly headache. And these vans don't have that. And the later years, like mine, you can put E85 in them, they're flex fuel. You get horrible gas mileage if you do that, but you have more options for like, if you're traveling all over the country, you know, gas is different in different places. So now for the cutaway chassis thing, they basically sell this as a cab, a frame, everything exactly the same as a Chevy Express or Savana without the actual van body on it. And that brings us to number one. This is a van. It's a box van, not a box truck, because it is built on the GMT 610 van platform, which is the same as a Chevy Express or a GMC Savana. GM made the cutaway chassis incomplete with just the cab, and then they put like a little flange on the back, and they send it off to be completed by, you know, second party companies like Morgan. And you'll see ambulances, shuttle buses, small school buses, these U-Hauls, anything. Even the 14-foot bigger U-Hauls with the dualies are still built on the GMT 610 platform. The box trucks are built on a medium-duty truck chassis such as the Chevy Kodiak, GMC Top Kick, F450, F550, the Internationals. They're completely separate platforms from the Chevy Express and GMC Savana. So this is a box van. And so are the bigger U-Hauls and those buses and, you know, all of that. You could call those bus vans or whatever. Either way, if it's built on that platform, it's a van. And after the Kodiak and Top Kick, GM actually called those the GMT 560, which is their bigger medium-duty platforms. So there's also those like weird forward control, funky cab over box trucks that some people build out, and you know, I've done zero research on those as far as their safety, but I would imagine that I would just be terrified driving on the interstate in one of those, you know. Yeah, if you're going 70 and you need to suddenly stop, goodbye, you know. Those bigger box trucks is a lot of what you see people building on YouTube, which just the thought of that for me personally would stress me out. I mean, basically you're building a Class A at that point, and you know, if you need like a hotel on wheels, then I mean, everyone travels different and that's fine, but I mean, I'd read a book on minimalism, all right? You know, it's, if you have a big rig like that, you're sacrificing a lot of your freedom with gas mileage for one, but also like you can't really drive that everywhere. You're gonna have a hard time getting in and out of parking lots. You're gonna have a hard time, you ain't going down back roads or, you know, off-roading with that thing. Which another point, The aftermarket on these is great for off-road. Even though it's rear-wheel drive, it's got a Dana 70 1-ton rear end on it with 411 gears. I mean, that is a beast of a rear axle, and I could put an air locker in it if I want. They also make lift kits for Chevy Express and GMC Savanas, 3-inch and 5-inch, I think. There's only one company that makes lifts for these, and you know, they're not cheap, but I could lift this thing up. I could put a locker in the back. I could put off-road bumpers front and rear with the winch. I mean, you can set it up pretty capable to get you around. So you can still have a lot of freedom with this. And it's not even the longest wheelbase of these. My friend's van, for his carpet cleaning business, is longer than mine. So basically I bought a GMC Savana that you can stand up in, and it's shaped like a box. So it's easy to build. There's plenty of room in there for me. I don't need anything bigger. I'm gonna get reasonable gas mileage. It's a very dependable, reliable van platform, and pretty much anything mechanically that's gonna happen with this van, I'll be able to fix myself. With this, I can get in and out of parking lots, and no, I probably can't go through a drive-through, but you know what? If you buy a high-top Transit or a Sprinter, you're gonna have to park at the McDonald's too. So I spent $12,500 on the van, and I will do a video on a cost breakdown of the build. Right now, I'll just tell you I'm around $9,000. And I think by the time I'm all said and done with everything, like wheels and tires, a lift, etc., the whole thing is going to be maybe 25 grand. Which, if you go buy like a Transit, you're going to spend that up front, and then you're going to have to build it. And you might be thinking like, 9 grand, you've spent that much? What? The biggest purchase so far has been the power system, and that was kind of the whole point of this build, is to make it completely off-grid. That's why I have an electric stove top. I just bought an electric water heater for this. But I mean, just the 2 lithium batteries alone is about 10% of that. So again, I'll do a total cost breakdown of the build, but so that's how I came to buy this particular 10-foot U-Haul, and that's why personally for me it was the best choice of a vehicle to do van life. And again, I'm sorry this isn't like a van build video. I've just, like I said, I've been sick, the weather sucks, and I haven't gotten anything done to the van since the last one. But the weather is getting better, and I've got materials now. I just ordered the laminate for my countertop, and I will be working on the van this weekend. So next week, you know, I should have something a little better for you. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Hi, cutie butts. What are you doing? Say hi to YouTube.